Hi spooky friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. So, shall we do a bit of a book haul? It has been a number of months since I filmed any sort of book haul. I think my first one was in January, which covered all the books I picked up in December for Christmas and maybe slightly after Christmas. So it's been a few months since then, and I have acquired a lot of new books because I did get an extra bookshelf, and I have a number of empty rows. Granted, this one was full, but I've taken all the books off to be able to show you everything that I have purchased or received in the last few months. So I'm going to try and keep this a little bit organized and do it by certain categories. And I'm going to start with some of my secondhand purchases and a book that my mum had gifted me. So let's get into it. So starting with the one my mum got me, she picked up Blood and Sugar by Laura Shepherd Robinson. My mum doesn't usually pick up books for me because I acquire so many books that it's difficult for her to know which ones I don't have. And I also read very differently to my mother. So she's seen that this had a thriller crime element and thought it was a little bit horror based. So she picked this one out for me, which was so sweet. And I've not heard anything about this book before, so I was really intrigued whenever she told me about it. It is a historical story. It is set in June 1781, where an unidentified body hangs upon a hook, horribly tortured, branded with a slaver's mark. So it's kind of like a mystery to be solved, like who this person is. And I am a sucker for historical stories at the moment, so I was definitely so happy that she thought of me when she seen this book. So yeah, really happy to have this, and hopefully I'll read it soon. Next up are 4 books that I got on Vinted, and I came across Book of the Month, and I've never really had any books from Book of the Month because they don't ship to the UK. So I seen a seller selling 4 of them and I nabbed them. The first one is The Light Pirate by Lily Brooks Dalton. This was from 2022, and whenever I was looking at which ones to pick up, I think I liked the fact that this was like survival story. Yeah, so it's a story of survival and resilience spanning one woman's lifetime as she navigates the uncertainty, brutality, and arresting beauty of a rapidly changing world. So it kind of had survivalist apocalyptic style, and I have never heard anybody talking about this book, so I was even more intrigued to include it in the ones I was going to pick up. Next one is a book I've been eyeing for a while, and that is Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. This was from 2023. I have tried Alex's writing before, the Once and Future Witches, and I did not gel with that story. I was hesitant to pick up anything else by her because of how different that book was and how it was just not my vibe. But I was intrigued by this one. The cover is stunning, and this one is like a gothic fantasy. So it is something that I enjoy. I really love gothic stories and I love fantasy. So I'm hoping that this one's going to hit better than Once and Future Witches. Next up, we have a book that I have been wanting for so long, and that is White Horse by Erica T. Worth. This is from 2022. This is like a haunted story where we're following somebody who is haunted by certain things that happened in their past. I think this might have some elements of dysfunctional families and also navigating generational trauma, possibly. I just know that this is a book that gets recommended often, and I just needed to get my hands on it, and why not have this really cool version of it, I guess. And the last book that I picked up in this stack is The Whisper Man by Alex North, and this is from 2019. So this is quite a number of years older, and I have heard people talk about this book so much that I wanted to read it at some point, but it was really difficult to find in the UK, and the cover just wasn't hitting when it did come. And I just really love this cover. That was really the main take for me whenever I seen this. I knew that I wanted this edition. And this is like navigating a new life in a new house, and like it's got folk elements because of like the Whisper Man. And I know that this is a hit or miss for some people. They've either loved it or absolutely hated it. So I'm not really sure how I'm going to feel about it, but I am so excited to have a copy in my collection. So these are the 4 book of the month books that I picked up from Thrifted. The next stack I have here are books from a box of stories. So I am currently a horror rep for a box of stories, and my code is Sophie Horror if you want to get a discount on your subscription. But I also bought some of these books from a box of stories before I became a horror rep. So I will tell you which ones I purchased and which ones were gifted. The first one on top here is This Is Where We Live by Kate Hardy. Yes, this is a new one. This came in the April box, which was part of my rep package. And there's not much given away in the synopsis for this. It's like a mother wakes to blood in her mouth and flesh under her fingernails, a severed toe on the doorstep, and a boy missing. And then it's like she has to raise her child alone, but what if she's the one that he needs protecting from? So it's kind of ominous, but I think that's what makes this stand out to me. I'm really excited to get to this story because it's super short and I think it's going to be really hard hitting. The Invisible Hotel. This came in a box that I had purchased from them, and I don't know much about this book, to be fair. Like a literary horror about the human consequences of war that has continued for over 7 decades, and the toll of being born into a conflict that shows no sign of stopping. So it's intriguing. This book is one I bought, and that is Timberfall by R.L. Boyle. This is a haunted house story, I assume. I try to go into books a little bit blind. I know basic premises, but I don't want to dive too far into stories. So if you do want more of a description on these stories, then please do go and look them up yourself, because I don't want to give too much away by reading too much of the synopsis. The next book is one that came with Timberfall, and that is Sailed by Naomi Booth. So this is like a dystopian story about like pregnancy and motherhood, and those things absolutely terrify me. So this one is probably going to be a hard-hitting story, and I have not seen this book or heard anybody talk about it before, which makes me even more intrigued to pick it up. And just look at this cover. This is stunning. I Will Never Leave You by Cara A. Kennedy. This is a young adult story that is a sapphic horror thriller. I'm intrigued to see how much of a romantic take this book has, because if you know me, you know I don't really enjoy romantic stories. They're not really for me. I will tolerate certain elements of romance in stories, but I just don't want a story to be mainly focused on romantic relations and so on. But I will give this a shot and I will see how much romance is in this story. But I'm really excited to have another book that I've not heard of before. Next is a book that I actually have 2 copies of. Hex House. Hex House I received from Titan Books because I am part of the Titan tour for Hex House. I will be sharing, well, by the time this video goes out, that review will already be up on my Instagram. I received this one from Titan in March, so I read this way before I even got this copy. And this one came in a box of stories in the April horror rep box. And yeah, I now have 2 copies, which is absolutely fine because we move. And I didn't even realize when I did the unboxing, the April one for a box of stories is signed, which is kind of cool. But yes, I now do have 2 copies, so we'll see what I end up doing. But yeah, that is Hex House. But the next book is another one that came in the April box, and this is Our Wicked Histories by Amy Goldsmith. So Our Wicked History is mixing dark academia with horror, and it's going to be an interesting story. I did read Those We Drowned by Amy Goldsmith a couple of years ago, and it was an interesting read. I did have a good time with it, so I'm still very excited to see how this one goes, especially as it is YA horror, and typically I don't read a lot of YA horror, so we'll see how this one goes. Next we have a book that I did purchase from a box of stories as well, and that is Moth Town. I don't know much about this story. I don't really want to know too much about it. I just know that I've seen it around. I really want to go into this book blind, so I'm not going to read anything on the back. But that is Moth Town, and I'm excited to read this one. And finally, the last book from a box of stories is The Feeding by AJ Ryan. This one I also paid for in a box. And I don't know much about The Feeding. I think it's like a vampire story, maybe. I did read Red River 7 by AJ Ryan and absolutely loved that. That was like a dystopian horror. And I loved the mystery element and also the reader not really knowing what's going on. So the writing style in that story was incredible. I'm very intrigued to see what AJ Ryan does in this story. So the next 3 books I have here are books that I picked up recently. They are 3 new releases, and 2 I bought at events, and 1 was just an anticipated read. So the anticipated read was She Made Herself a Monster by Anya Kokatfecha. So sorry for that pronunciation. But this is an Eastern European folk story that kind of centers around a take on the vampire trope, but more a case of mystery and small town living, what you have to do to survive. I have read this. I give it a 5-star. I absolutely loved this. It was so fast and thrilling, and I loved the writing style. But I am a sucker for folk horror, and this one did not disappoint. Loved everything about it, and the commentary that you get in this story in terms of the reasoning for making herself a monster was very sad, but an incredible story, and I highly recommend picking it up. Next is Nowhere Burning by Catriona Ward. I went to Catriona's event for this book, and she is a wonderful woman, and she told me that she thought this was her best book she's ever written, and I can kind of agree with that point. I have finished this book and I absolutely enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it as much as The Last House on Needless Street though, but this still had everything that I wanted in a Catriona Ward book. She has such a way of writing characters, settings, and just making the whole thing feel tense. And this is no different. I loved everything about this book. It had your dark fairy tale element, also with horrific scenes and horrific descriptions of certain things. It's a lawless land of children who look after each other. And we're following Riley and her little brother Oliver as they navigate the mountains to get to Nowhere. And Nowhere is obviously the land of children. It's got your Peter Pan-esque retelling in here. I highly recommend picking this book up if you can tolerate Catriona Ward's writing. It is an acquired taste, but I absolutely love this book. And finally, the last book from this little section is Greedy by Kali Kasumi. I also picked this up at an event, but it was a overnight bookshop, a typewriter's all-night bookshop. We also get a timestamp on when we visited and at what time. So that one was incredible. I went into this event knowing I wanted to pick up a book, There were a few books out at the time that I wanted to get my hands on. This was one of them, and this was the last copy there. So I knew this was made for me. And yes, I just know that this is grim and lots of gruesome things happen in this story. And if Lucy Rose really loved it so much, she says it's sinister, stylish, and utterly addictive. I cannot wait to delve into this because The Lamb by Lucy Rose was one of my favorite reads from last year. So if she loves it, I hope I love it. Next up, we have a collection of books that I just randomly purchased because I wanted to. So the first one is This Cursed House by Del Sandine. This is a historical horror. It is set in 1962 Louisiana. So this is Southern Gothic and historical and probably got lots of darkness in it. I'm so glad I have a copy of it now. Sticking on a similar theme, and we're going further back in time to 1646 with The First Witch of Boston by Andrea Catalano, inspired by accurate diary entries and court records. I just picked this up because it was historical. It's witches, it's Puritan society. Those things in itself always intrigues me. So I seen it, wanted to have it, now I have it. Hopefully I'll read it really soon. 2 books that I picked up from Waterstones on a recent trip because I wanted some smaller books in my collection. The first one is Dead Animals by Phoebe Stuckey's and Swallowed by Meg Smitherman. Both of these covers stood out to me so much, and this one is about a planet broken beyond repair, and this one is about a young woman who wakes up after a house party, her body scratched and bruised, haunted by the violent events. Her rage becomes all-consuming. So all-consuming. So this one is good for her, and this one is The Climate is Fucked. Both of them are definitely things I enjoy reading about, so I'm intrigued to read them myself. Okay, the last stack of books I have are books that I randomly picked up from supermarkets. First one is Books and Bewitchment by Isla Jewell. This is a romance story, which I didn't realize until I started watching YouTube and Steph Loves was reading this. And now I'm not so excited to read this book. I thought it was going to be mainly about witchcraft and books, but it does lean a little bit more romantic. So I'm not sure about this book anymore. Then we have The Future Saints by Ashley Winstead. This is a story about the Future Saints, which is a band, and they have to come together for one last album, I'm assuming. I have loved musical books in the past. I recently read Hot Wax and really enjoyed that one. And We Sold Our Souls by Grady Hendrix. I thought I'd give some musical adjacent stories a chance, and this was one of them. Seen it in Asda for about £5, so picked it up. Next is Beth is Dead. I have read Little Women in the past and I did like it, so I am very excited to see what Kit, I've called her Kit, it's Kitty, what Kitty has done with this story. Next is The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. I've seen Kristen Hanna around a lot recently, and people are reading The Woman and what was the other one? The Nightingale. I think that's being made into a movie, but those didn't really stand out to me. But The Great Alone did, simply because this is set in Alaska and in 1974. So I really love like polar regions, and the more icier the book, the better. So this one stood out the most out of all of the options, and I seen it for £5 in the shop, and even though I don't like glossy books, it was so cheap I couldn't pass that up. So yeah, I'm excited to get to this at some point. Next is another musical book, and that is Deep Cuts by Holly Brickley. This is a story about collaboration, competition, and ambition. Someone plays the guitar. I lean a little bit more romantic, so I'm curious to if I enjoy this book or not. But this was another one I thought I would give it a shot because of the musical aspect. Then we have The Violin Maker's Secret by Evie Woods. In my past, I was a violinist, and something magical about violins to me, and again it's musical adjacent, so I wanted to read this, and I am picking this book up really soon because this does fit for a Buzzwordathon challenge prompt, so I'm excited to read this book. And finally, the last book is Weaving Shaw by Herba al-Wusati. I'm so sorry for pronunciations. It is not my forte. I haven't read a story this huge in a while, so it is intimidating, but I've heard people absolutely love this story, and I do prefer my fantasy a little bit darker, so I'm hoping that this one does hit. And yeah, the price to enter is Your Darkest Secret. So that screams very intriguing. And yeah, that's why I wanted to pick it up. And it also only costs £10. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, it should be 20, but supermarket books are so much cheaper. It's insane. So I've just counted, and we don't have a nice 30 number, but we have 29 books that I have hauled in the last 3 months, which I don't think is too bad. It could be a lot worse. And obviously I'm filming this before my Evernight book comes, so technically it should be 30, but it's not going to get included in this video because it just has not arrived yet. But that should be arriving in the next few weeks. It always tends to arrive maybe in the first week of May. So we'll see how that goes. I'm really excited to have that book. Let me know in the comments what book you think I should really prioritize out of these. If you've read any, let me know your thoughts. I would really love to hear your thoughts and opinions. And thank you for joining me on this little random book haul video. We don't do this often, but I like to keep a record of books I'm bringing in, and obviously I have a lot more shelves that I need to fill, so it's just an excuse to keep buying books. And I guess until next time, keep your pages turning and embrace the darkness. Bye!